Welcome back to Process Cast with Mark Anderson and Samantha Blake, your go-to podcast for insights into business process management and the technologies transforming the way we work. In this episode, Samantha and Mark dive into a business process you can import into your HEFLO account for free. Click the link in the description to get it.
All right, welcome in everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's at the core of every single business out there: hiring. Specifically, how companies go about finding the right people. You know, it's funny, you'd think in today's world, with all the technology and everything, hiring would be like super streamlined. But it's still a pretty involved process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not as simple as just posting a job online and picking whoever sounds best, right? There's a whole lot more that goes on behind the scenes.
Exactly. And that's what we're digging into today. We've got this really detailed document that lays out a typical HR hiring process, like a step-by-step blueprint from start to finish. We're talking a summary, a diagram to help visualize the flow, descriptions of each stage, the whole 9 yards.
It's a comprehensive guide, for sure. And you know what? It's fascinating to see how structured it actually is.
Right. You'd think it might be more free-flowing, but there's a real logic to it. Our mission today is to pull out the most important steps and give you a clear picture of how companies generally approach hiring. So whether you're someone who's involved in hiring decisions, or maybe you're just curious about how it all works from the inside, this deep dive is for you.
And even from a job seeker's perspective, knowing this process can be really insightful. You start to understand what companies are looking for and how they make their decisions.
Totally. Okay, so let's jump right in. Where does this whole hiring journey actually begin?
Well, it starts with a need, right? Someone in the organization realizes, hey, we need another person. In this document, they call that person the requester.
The requester. So basically the hiring manager or team leader who says, hey, we need someone.
Exactly. They recognize the need for a new team member. But it's not just a casual thought, you know? It actually kicks off the first formal step in the process, which is to define the position.
So it's not just like we need someone. They have to really nail down what that someone needs to be able to do.
Precisely. And that's where things get interesting. The requester really has to think things through, like, what's the purpose of this role? What problems will this person be solving? What will their daily responsibilities actually look like?
It's not just about duties, right? They also need to think about qualifications.
Yeah.
What kind of education, skills, experience are they looking for?
Right. They have to define those essential qualifications. And here's the thing. They also need to consider the impact. Like, what impact is this new hire expected to have on the team, on the company, on the overall goals?
So it's like painting a really clear picture of who they need and why.
Yeah, it's like creating a blueprint. And this blueprint is super important because it becomes the guiding document for the entire hiring process.
It's like setting the destination for the journey, right? If you don't know where you're going, good luck getting there.
Exactly. Okay, so once the position is clearly defined, you know, all the responsibilities, qualifications, the impact, what do you think happens next?
Well, you'd think they'd just jump into posting the job online, right? But actually, before they go external, most companies take a look inward first.
Oh, that makes sense. You know, see if there's anyone already within the company who could be a good fit.
Exactly. And that's where our document says, search candidates in a resume bank. This is where the HR team steps in.
So they're basically digging into their internal talent pool, looking at resumes from people who might have applied for other jobs in the past, or maybe even current employees who might be looking for a new challenge within the company.
Right. And there are some really good reasons to do this first.
Yeah.
I mean, if they find someone internally who's qualified, it can save a lot of time and money.
Oh, for sure. It can speed up the whole process significantly. Plus, it's great for employee morale, too. It shows that the company is invested in its people and their growth. But, you know, there's a flip side to consider, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like, what if you only ever hire internally? You might miss out on fresh perspectives, new ideas, you know, that outside talent can bring.
Exactly. So it's really about striking a balance.
Absolutely. Now, let's say they've searched their internal talent pool, and for whatever reason, they haven't found the right person. What's next?
Well, then it's time to widen the net and go external. That's when they move to post the position.
Okay, so this is where they actually create the job advertisement and put it out there for the world to see.
Precisely. The HR team takes that detailed position definition we talked about, all that good stuff about the role, and crafts a compelling job ad. Then they distribute it across all sorts of channels. Think job boards, the company's website, social media, maybe even industry-specific websites. It's all about getting the word out and attracting qualified candidates.
And now we enter what can sometimes be the longest part of the process, right? Waiting for all those applications to come in. The await resumes stage.
Yeah, the waiting game. But it's not really just sitting around twiddling thumbs, is it?
No, not at all. The HR team is busy monitoring all those channels where they posted the job, keeping track of the applications, collecting resumes and cover letters, making sure everything's organized. I bet that can be a ton of work, especially for popular roles.
Oh, absolutely. Some companies get flooded with applications. Imagine sorting through hundreds, even thousands of resumes. That's where technology can be a huge help. A lot of companies use what's called an ATS, an applicant tracking system.
Ah, yeah. Those systems can scan resumes for keywords and qualifications to help narrow down the pool.
Right. They help make the initial screening process more efficient. But here's the thing. You have to be careful not to rely too heavily on these systems,
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, what if someone is really qualified, but they didn't use the exact right keywords in their resume? The ATS might filter them out.
Exactly. So it's important to have a balance between using technology for efficiency and still taking the time to review applications carefully to make sure no potentially great candidates slip through the cracks.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so now they've got a whole pile of applications. It's time to start sorting through them, right?
That takes us to the analyze resumes and select candidates step. And this isn't just an HR task. The requester, the hiring manager, gets involved here too.
So it's a collaborative effort to identify the most promising candidates.
Exactly. HR typically does an initial screening, looking for those must-have qualifications and experience. Then they work closely with the requester, who really understands the specifics of the role and the team dynamics, to narrow it down to a short list.
And what I find interesting is that our document even mentions a feedback loop here. Like, if they go through all those resumes and nobody seems like a good fit, they might actually go back to the await resume stage.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button. Maybe they need to tweak the job posting, target different channels, or maybe even reconsider some of those must-have qualifications if they're proving too restrictive.
So it's not always a perfectly linear process.
That's right. It highlights the importance of flexibility and adaptability in hiring.
Okay, let's say they've got their short list of candidates who look really promising on paper. Now what?
Now it's time to get to know these people better, to move beyond the resume. That's where schedule interviews comes in.
Okay, so this is where they start reaching out to candidates and setting up those all-important interviews.
Exactly. HR often takes the lead here, coordinating schedules, sending out invites, and maybe even arranging some initial assessments or tests depending on the role.
And then, of course, we get to the heart of the evaluation process: conduct interviews.
This is where things get really interesting. There can be multiple rounds of interviews, maybe a quick phone screening with HR first, then more in-depth interviews with the hiring manager, and maybe even interviews with other team members.
It can be quite a process for the candidates. Our document actually mentions a specific type of interview. Interview candidates performed by the requester. It sounds like a pretty crucial step.
Oh yeah, that's what's often called the technical interview. And it's especially important for roles that require specialized knowledge or skills.
So this is where they really dig into the candidate's expertise.
Exactly. The hiring manager, or maybe a senior team member, will lead this interview. They'll ask very specific questions to assess the candidate's technical abilities, problem-solving skills, and their experience in areas directly relevant to the job.
It's a chance to see if they can actually walk the walk, so to speak.
Exactly. And, beyond the technical stuff, it's also a good opportunity for the interviewer to get a sense of the candidate's personality, their work style, and how they might fit within the team.
Yeah, that whole cultural fit piece. How do you think companies actually assess something like that in an interview?
Well, there are techniques they can use, like behavioral interviewing, asking candidates to describe how they handled specific situations in the past to get a sense of their approach and their values.
Makes sense. It's like trying to predict how they'll behave in the future based on their past actions.
Right, and whether their values align with the company's culture. Okay, so now they've done all these interviews, they've gathered feedback from everyone involved, they've assessed those technical skills. It's decision time, right?
Time to choose the best candidate. Our document calls this stage select candidates.
And this is where everyone comes back together, HR, the hiring manager, maybe other key team members, to review all the information they've gathered and make that final decision.
They're weighing everything: skills, experience, personality, how well they did in the technical interview, and of course that all-important cultural fit.
It's about finding someone who not only has the right skills, but who will also thrive in the company's environment and be a good addition to the team.
It's like putting together all the pieces of the puzzle to see which one fits best.
Exactly. So they've made their choice. Now they have to make it official. That's finalize the recruitment.
Okay, so this is where they extend the job offer to the lucky candidate.
Right. HR usually handles this part. They communicate the offer details, salary, benefits, start date, and make sure everything's clear for the candidate.
And then there's another step that's important, even though it might not be as fun: communicate results.
Ah, yes. Letting all those other candidates know that they weren't chosen.
It might seem like a small thing, but our document stresses that it's crucial to do this professionally and respectfully, even if it's not the news they were hoping for.
It's all about maintaining a positive candidate experience, even for those who weren't ultimately selected.
And you know what? That can go a long way in building a good reputation for the company. People talk, and how a company treats candidates, even those who didn't get the job, can really impact their brand.
Totally agree. Okay, let's fast forward to the happy ending. The chosen candidate accepts the offer. What happens then?
That takes us to the final stage in our document: employee onboarding. This is where things transition from recruiting to welcoming and integrating the new hire into the company.
It's like the official welcome wagon.
Exactly. HR plays a big role in this handoff, making sure the new employee has everything they need to get started.
It's more than just paperwork, though. Onboarding is about making the new hire feel comfortable, giving them the resources and training they need to be successful, and making them feel like a valued part of the team right from the start.
It sets the tone for their entire experience at the company.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've gone through all the steps of the hiring process, but before we wrap up, let's just take a minute to clearly define the key players we've been talking about. First up, we have the requester.
The one who kicks off the whole process.
Right. They're typically a manager, a team leader, or someone who's leading a specific project. They identify the need for a new team member, and they're responsible for defining the role, the responsibilities, the qualifications, all that good stuff.
And they work closely with HR throughout the entire process, right?
Absolutely. They provide input on resumes, they lead those technical interviews, and they ultimately have a big say in the final selection.
And then we have the other crucial player, the ones who keep the whole thing running smoothly: human resources.
The HR team is like the central command center for the hiring process. They're responsible for making sure everything runs according to plan, according to the company's policies and legal requirements. They manage all the logistics, the communication, the paperwork. They really are the glue that holds it all together.
So to sum it all up, we've seen that hiring isn't just a random process. There's a clear structure to it, with specific steps and well-defined roles.
And what's really fascinating when you look at it this way is how many different perspectives are involved. You have the requester, who has a very specific need, and then you have HR, who's thinking about the bigger picture, about the long-term impact on the company, about fairness and compliance and all of that.
It's a complex process, but understanding it can make you a better manager, a better employee, and even a better job seeker.
For sure. Now, here's a thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. With all these steps and all these players involved, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that companies face when it comes to hiring effectively? Especially in today's world, where things are changing so fast and the competition for talent is so fierce.
It's a question worth thinking about. And that's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to ProcessCast. This episode was brought to you by HEFLO, the BPM platform that empowers businesses to document, automate, and optimize their processes with AI. Experience the intelligence to simplify complex business processes and accelerate your growth with our complete management solution. Visit heflo.com to learn more. Be sure to follow ProcessCast for more insights on business process management, and don't forget to share this episode with your network. Until next time.